You ever do something bad without realizing it? Said the wrong thing to a stranger? Assumed the wrong thing of someone else? Done the wrong thing in a situation that's tension went entirely over your head? I know I have. More than I can count, but unlike you, mine had potentially dire consequences. Because I, for a while, and without any criminal intention, believed I had committed an act of espionage against the United States. Before we go into detail about such an extreme crime, real or not, I feel the need to give you a description of my character. A window into who I truly am, even should we never actually meet. I have never been a rebellious person. Devious, perhaps, more than you'll ever know, but never openly rebellious. I was a bit of a goody two-shoes as a child, the type that programs like DARE worked a bit too well on, the type that you can tell you should avoid when doing something wrong. A Boy Scout, both figuratively and literally. In high school, I was a JROTC kid. For those who don't know, that stands for Junior Reserve Officers Training Corps, a high school level version of the college level ROTC, which is a program run by the military to effectively turn regular high school into military school. To the average student, it's really just a super intense class with a relatively easy A. But to those aiming to go into the military, it both acts as a sampler for what's to come and a path towards a better future, with it both offering a fast track to officer school through ROTC scholarships and generally just looking good on your record should you enlist. For me, as might be obvious, just taking the class wasn't enough. So in my second year of the program, I foolishly decided to join staff, that being the student leaders of the program as the S5, Special Projects Officer. But to our program, it was more casually called the Social Media Officer. And my job was to take pictures at events, update the website, and basically just be the in-program graphic designer. Summer of that second year was my first big event on staff, a small week-long summer camp we did every year, but this time with a new twist. A field trip on the last day of the camp to the local army base, Fort Lee, now called Fort Greg Adams. This base is notable for a few reasons, but most notably is the fact that it hosts several major Army support schools, including the Ordnance School and the Transportation School, where they train technicians to work on all sorts of vehicles, from armored personnel carriers to light tanks to Humvees. It should be noted that there is something of an inherent risk in this idea. Taking a bunch of high schoolers, mostly freshmen with limited discipline, to a place with potentially classified information certainly seems ill-advised, which is why most of the field trip was heavily curated by the base itself. The previous school year, I had actually gone on a similar trip to the same base, so much of the content was familiar. The bomb disposal robot, the firing range simulation, the tour of the training garage, lunch, and then home. The garage specifically was the most security-tight part of the tour. Anything painted white wasn't allowed to be photographed. However, the year was 2019. Then, 4 years earlier, the US had contracted the production of the Joint Light Tactical Vehicle, or JLTV, a vehicle to replace the Humvee, but they had only begun to fully roll them out about 2 months prior. Because of this, there was a JLTV present in the training garage for the students to get practice working on. Seeing as it was the hot new thing, my AI, Army instructor, told me to make it the basis of our big commemorative photo op, and, later, use it as the centerpiece of a certificate I had to make, signifying the incoming freshmen's participation in the camp. Months later, I had found this article about the JLTVs, dated November of that year, then mere weeks before. At the time, I had thought this article's publishing date was indicative of when information of the JLTVs in government hands had become publicly available, meaning that when I had taken that picture and, more importantly, used it on that certificate, I had shared classified military information. I thought I had committed an act of espionage. This sent me, secretly, into a spiral. I thought I had done something bad. As in, I thought I had accidentally committed the kind of crime that could get me sent to a prison that legally doesn't exist. The kind that gets people put up on the FBI wall of shame. For years afterward, I had kept this a secret from everyone. Overnight, I had grown incredibly cagey about pretty much anything involving Fort Lee, the JLTV, and interacting with federal investigations, hoping that, if I simply never acknowledged it happened and never did anything further with these photos, all the danger would just go away. However, in recent research, I've discovered public information on the JLTV's existence going as far back as 2016, and public knowledge of it in the Army's hands dated to January the same year as our field trip, 8 months prior to the incident, meaning that all my mental anguish was for nothing. Still, there was a part of me unsure of the true status of everything. What if that vehicle being there actually was still classified? What if, even if the JLTV was in the clear, I accidentally snapped a photo of something else I wasn't supposed to? Or what if I'm just holding on to the idea that I got away with such a serious crime to stroke my own ego? Who knows, honestly. It does make me wonder, though. If that was something I acknowledge happened, even if it wasn't actually illegal, what's actually the worst thing I've unintentionally done?